Welcome back to Mik'd Up. As we said before the break, it is Jay Johnson Wednesdays. LSU's coming off of a midweek game, a 14-4 midweek win all over Northwestern State, rebounding from their first conference series loss of the season. Like we do every Wednesday, we get to talk with Coach Jay Johnson. I'm very excited. Coach, I appreciate you coming on the show. I also appreciate the extra work that you take the time out. These guys, look, studies come first. Student, athlete comes first, right? The student part comes first. They did it. They go to the field, get their work in. Got to admire the work ethic. Got to admire it. Coach, I appreciate you coming on. Love the hat. Love the look. You look good. You just got right off the field, didn't you?
This came right off the field. Cage right here.
Just came right out of there.
Right from the cages.
I love that. I love that. All right, let's get to it. You elected to start Thatcher last night to begin the game, right? Obviously, he's been coming out of the bullpen. He started last night. Started a little rocky. First few guys, maybe took him a little while to kind of get the rhythm, but then he caught fire, figured it out, looked really good over the two and a third innings that he threw, struck out 5 guys. What did you see from him? I think for me, I love to watch him actually go through a little bit of that struggle and then figure it out and then right the ship, because that's kind of been the thing that you weren't sure about, or we weren't sure about throughout the course of the year. What did you like about his outing last night?
Yeah, I liked everything. Gave up a leadoff single to Elkins, who's the career hit leader actually at Northwestern State. Then we walked the next guy, and I thought some of those pitches were close. I don't know if they were strikes, but it wasn't like out of the zone. Then we had a weak ground ball and then a pass ball that scored a run, and then just went out to the mound and just made sure he was dialed to finish the inning strong, and he did. And it was a great example to the rest of our pitching staff of just keeping it small. And then he really caught rhythm there. I think he struck out the side in the second. And then we had a few more pitches, so we had him go get the leadoff guy of the third and wanted to have him available for the weekend in full capacity. So we decided to make a move. But I thought he pitched great.
Coach, watching you come out to get him last night, I could tell you were pleased, and I would imagine it's probably not just what he did last night, but probably a culmination of how he's thrown his last few outings. Also seeing the look on his face didn't seem like someone who was relieved or surprised that he was able to do what he did. There was a lot of confidence there. Can you speak a little bit about how he is right now mentally and where he's at with everything?
Yeah, for sure. I think just from a performance standpoint, a really good outing last night. Obviously had a really good 9th inning on Friday to close it out against Auburn. Really good save situation, 5 up, 5 down against Alabama. Pitched really good against Nichols to start 2 weeks ago, 1 inning, 4 runs. So the good outings is what we're accustomed to and what I knew we would get eventually when we got here. And I thought last night was a good example. Like, I went out to the mound in the first inning, and I could just tell he was totally in control of himself, and came back to the dugout just thinking like, hey, we're fine. And then he struck the next 2 guys out, and we were off and rolling. And then he struck out the side. Just the control of himself, very impressive. The growth in his execution, very impressive. And the reason we wanted to get him out there is because he only threw 1 inning the weekend before, and he's starting to become one of our best pitchers, which is not a surprise to anybody here.
Because you shuffled up the lineup a little bit. Obviously, you didn't put a lot of new guys into the lineup, but as far as where they're hitting in the order, you moved, Thompson down a little bit, and you moved Beloso up, and you have Travinsky right in the middle. Obviously, that happens, that shuffles. But I think what was interesting was later on in the game, you moved Jobert from right to first, right? Obviously, played some third this year. Is that something that we can maybe see moving forward if you want to see how he can handle it based off of matchups and just to kind of have his bat in the lineup?
I don't know. I thought we had the game in hand. Yeah. I really did, especially with the amount of pitchers we had available at the end of the game. If anything would have got hairy last night. And frankly, I wanted to get Paxton Kling and Ethan Fry in the ball game last night. And we think Ethan's turning into a really good outfielder. But Braden hadn't played as much recently, meaning last weekend. Right. And so I wanted to continue to give him at bats. I thought his 2-run single with 2 strikes and the bases loaded was the biggest hit of the game last night because we picked up 2 RBIs, and then Thompson immediately came up and hit a 3-run home run. So it was kind of a combination of, I thought the game was in hand. I wanted to continue to get him another at bat or 2. Wanted to get Ethan and Paxton in the game. And so that was just kind of the way to do it. Then it became, okay, who's better at first, Joe Bear or Fry? We didn't really have a great answer for that. So, we were willing to risk it for an inning or two last night.
Coach,
go ahead. No.
I want to go back to last week, and just for a little bit, I know I don't want to go back and harp too much on what happened. Obviously, everybody, you saw it, you spoke on it. But it was the first time y'all have lost 2 games in a row all year. It's the first series y'all have lost all year, right? And the only way I like to try to relate and correlate what my experience is to that, right? In 2009, we did something very similar. The fourth to last weekend of the season, we lost to Tennessee at home Saturday and Sunday. First time we lost 2 games back to back. The next weekend, we made a lot of moves just defensively because that's what needed to happen. I'm not saying that you're making a bunch of moves, but from that point forward, we went 27-4 to finish the season. The message was heard. We figured it out. We were similar to what y'all are, very basically teaching ourselves, right? We understood what we needed to do, and we had the mission at hand. What is the message to the guys, being that they were so successful, they won games so much, but then they towards the back end of the season, they slip up. What was your message to them?
Yeah, I think, first off, it's a credit to our team. I've gotten asked about the number one thing a lot, and we've been number one for the entire season. And so 13 weeks in a row, that obviously hasn't been an issue because they've handled that great. So I'm proud of them for that. I am a little more of a realist, understanding that the league that we're playing in right now is what I call the moon to the rest of college baseball. And Auburn, whatever they are, the 9th, 10th, or 11th place team right now, they'd be no worse than third in any standings in any other conference in America. And it's on the road, and they're playing with a ton of urgency. And they have really good players. I mean, this is an Omaha team from last year that has several players there. And they played well. Right. And then I think you also look at not necessarily losing the series, but what happened. What happened on Friday is we won a 3-0 game where a couple of our stars were stars. Paul was Paul. Trey Morgan had a huge game, 3 RBIs. And we played really good defense, and we pitched really well out of the bullpen. Okay, so check. Then you go to Saturday, and we're facing Tommy Vale, who had pitched really, really well like 3 weeks in a row. Nobody had hit him at all. And we had him in 90 pitches through 4 innings. Right. In the third, we were up 1-0 and came up with bases loaded, nobody out, with Dylan and Tommy, where the entire year that turned into we're up 5 or 6-0, and it didn't. We only got 1 out of that. And then we got to a bases loaded 2 outs the very next inning, and Dylan got into a 2-0 count and then hit a ball hard right at something. Right. So it was like, you have to kind of look at that. Then we give up the lead, but then we take the lead right back, and then Javen Coleman comes out and throws up a 0. So, like, to that point, so halfway through the series, we're in character and we're playing fine. But they're a good team. Javen lost the strike zone a little bit. Bryce came in and didn't get anybody out. And we got, dug ourselves a hole, and then kind of got back into it where we were actually 1 ball away from Dylan coming up with the bases loaded and the tying run on second base. So Saturday night, it's a loss in the SEC for me. And then Sunday, we just got, pummeled. We didn't give ourselves a chance to win with walking 6 guys or whatever it was in the first inning. And, for the first time all year, the offense didn't respond. So, like, when you look at it in that context, then which is what I do, then we just attack those things, and then we move forward. There is 0 issue with motivation or urgency with our team. We lost an SEC series on the road to a good team that played really, really well, and so we're just going to attack the things that we need to do better.
Yeah, I mean, y'all are half game back from the West, half game back for the overall lead in the SEC. Y'all are right where you need to be at the end of the season. Is what the goals that y'all set at the beginning of the season. Y'all are right there, right? But part of that reason, you mentioned it in your interviews early in the week, whereas you could maybe see some shakeup within the weekend rotation. Is that something that y'all are still deciding? Have y'all made a decision? I'm not saying you have to announce it. I would love for you to tell me if you haven't announced it yet. But is that something that y'all already know, or are y'all still trying to work through that?
Yeah, it's kind of been a busy day around here. And so, after I'm done with you guys, I'm going to hop in the shower and then spend all night on Mississippi State and all day tomorrow outside of practice. Paul will pitch on Friday, and then I'm not sure what we're going to do after that. Now with Ty, I think that's as good as you can pitch, for 3+ innings the other night. And I'm really excited about that. I think we got some awareness at where some things went wrong. And, the other part of that is, like I just mentioned, the top of the fourth inning right there. If we bust that game open, it leaves us the flexibility to just let him work through that. And I think he might have worked through that. And so that's tough, but I have a good feeling about where he's headed. I'm very comfortable with him. But how we structure, who starts and when guys come in, like if I'm the coach, that's usually going to be always under evaluation, because the only game that matters to me is the game that's in front of us. And at this point in the year where you're hunting one win at a time to give ourselves a chance to play postseason baseball at home, that's how it's going to be. So, who starts the game, not really relevant. They need to be able to go out and execute with pressure on them and execute pitches. And, I think we'll pitch better this week, and I really do.
Coach, someone who's kind of had some up and down outings this year, but has played a significant role for the team in the past, had an extended outing last year. I thought he threw very well for what he went out there and did. Blake Money, what you saw him do and his ability to pound the zone, does an outing like last night open up an opportunity for him to see more time over the weekend?
Absolutely. Well, he was moving in that direction. We used him in the Saturday and Sunday game at Alabama, and then used him on Tuesday at Southeastern Louisiana. And then he said his upper tricep kind of felt a little tight, so I took him out of the game, and he wasn't too happy about that. And then he was up in the bullpen on Sunday. We just didn't give ourselves any chance on Sunday by that first inning. Right. So I'm really happy with Blake. I was really happy with last night. He gave up the home run to one of their better hitters, and that's a team that can and has hit a lot of home runs. And I think maybe in the past he would have let the game get away from him, but he didn't. He got right back in there and executed and pitched great. So he's definitely going to be more a part of what we're doing.
When you have the games like you had last night, whether it really doesn't matter if it comes on the weekend or if it comes in midweek, game gets out of hand, it becomes a blowout. For you as a coach, what are your things that you're looking for to see consistency out of your team, and watch as they continue to make sure they stay on top of it throughout the game?
Yeah, I think like I said, I wanted to get a couple guys in there last night. I'm the one person in the program that can have a little bit of a vision beyond, what's right in front of us. And, I think Paxton is going to be a superstar here. I think Ethan's going to be a superstar here. And we're going to need them at some point, as we're moving along. So I wanted to get them in the game, wanted to get Dylan off his feet. I mean, once we, got to the 10-run thing, we were able to get Tommy out of the game. And this time of year, you guys know it as players, anytime you can get off your legs, even for 3 to 6 outs, that's a win. And the position player group has played through a lot of, smaller nagging type things and have shown no sign of weakness really throughout the entire year. So it was to kind of get some of those guys off their feet, get some guys in the ball game, continue to play. And last night, I thought it was a really good response by our team. I thought we were in character. We got free bases. We hit extra base hits. I thought the 3 pitchers did a really good job. We had one defensive inning where, Jordan, short hopped the throw at first and Ethan didn't catch that ball. But other than that, we were pretty good on defense. And, these guys are into winning, man. And they wanted to get back on track. And I think that was a good example of that last night.
You mentioned somebody that I wanted to hit on. I was at the game last night, and obviously you wanted to see Dylan get back right. I don't think he's been playing poorly, and I know he's not somebody that you're worried about. But I wanted to bring back a point that Mikie had made, wherever he continually takes professional at bats, where he is almost like being pitched around, and he almost has to score up one ball, and if he misses it, it feels like he's not going to get another pitch to hit. I would imagine you're not concerned at all, but where are you with Dylan Cruz, and what do you think he has to do to kind of get back right, because you need him in the middle of the lineup?
Yeah, he needs to just be himself, and has played terrific, and just got done hitting right now, and was exactly what you'd expect him to be. And I think he's just set the bar so high that anytime he's not 2 for 3 or 3 for 4 or SEC player for that matter, sometimes people go like, hey, what's wrong? Well, nothing's really wrong. The guy's played his rear end off every pitch of every inning of every game since he's been here, and is allowed to go 1 for 5 every once in a while.
Yeah.
And
It's baseball.
He's a human being. He's a human being.
Contrary to popular belief.
That's honestly the least of my concerns, to be honest with you, right?
I would imagine you're a little concerned when you took one to the Dome last night.
Yeah, I didn't love that.
Jesus.
Not my favorite moment, huh? Yeah.
But I did actually have an actual real question. I saw you flip the lineup a little bit where you put Thompson back at the bottom of the lineup, put him, I think, 9th. Is that something that you think you'll continue to do where he feels more comfortable to probably see a little bit more fastballs and it's almost like that double leadoff perspective? Is that something that you'll expect to do going into the weekend?
I don't know. It'll depend on, A, the pitcher that we're facing, and then B, who else is in there. I mean, that matters as well. And, trying to set them all up for success. I mean, the thing about Jordan is he does such a good job hitting with runners on base and with runners in scoring position. Like, kind of wanted to get him up there to where, those guys that are tough to pitch to and are going to be on base, and then he's sitting there. And, last night I felt like that was a good way to match it up, with him and Dugas kind of tag teaming that in front of, the 3, Trey and Dylan and Tommy, and, it worked out good. And, so we'll see. I mean, I'm not closed into anything. He's had success no matter where we've placed him or put him, and he will continue to.
Coach, going back to the pitching for a little bit, right? Gavin Guidry has, I think, proven himself to you. He's earned your trust. You've put him in a lot of situations where are very tough, especially for a freshman. He's performed very admirably. Has he built himself up enough to where you can kind of extend him? Is that something that we can maybe see where he doesn't just throw a couple innings, he throws maybe 3, 4, 5 innings, like either a long relief, maybe a spot start here or there? Has he built himself up enough, or do you like him in the role that he's in right now?
I think it could go either way. I mean, he's going to need to be used at a short spurt if that's what we need. However, when he came in and got us out of the mess in the first inning and felt good, and he was like, "Hey, leave me in. They won't score anymore." And one of the things I appreciate about Gavin is he's as competitive as anybody on our team, and that's a great quality and why he's been successful. And so we went ahead and ran the pitch count up there to high 60s, low 70s. So he's now in a position where he can do both. And I've been very careful with that because we basically did a reboot of his arm when we started pitching him. Right. And so now we're in a position where that could go either way, but I can say I trust him at any time. We're at the point of the season, and it's not like the SEC is like this any differently throughout the year, but we can only hand the ball guys that can pitch above the pressure line. Yep. And I definitely believe he can do that.
Coach, later on in his career, obviously he came in as a shortstop. He was a two-way guy. Is he a potential, hey, you're going to play shortstop and you're going to come and close the game out in the 9th inning? Is that a potential role for him?
Take the tape off?
Later on in his career? I mean, I'd imagine so, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really like him as a defender. I like him as a runner. It can add to a different type of dynamic, a different type of team if he's out there. With that being said, I mean, he's shown the ability he can either start or close. Yeah. So we have a good plan in place of, how we're going to finish this season and then how we're going to transition him in the summertime back to a two-way player and what he's going to need to do to be able to do that. And then that just has to be really, really well thought out. And I love two-way players. Got several guys that were two-way players for me that are playing in the major leagues right now. He has a lot of those same qualities, but you got to do that, mindfully, so he's the right type of position player and the right type of pitcher. And so the summer will be devoted to adding some strength and then getting some at-bats. He'll put the ball down. He won't pitch, at all during the summertime. But we got to get some weight on him so he can withstand that. And I definitely think that's where I see him moving forward.
Coach, perfection is what you strive for in baseball, but we all know perfection in pretty much every aspect of the game is what you don't get, correct? With the way this past weekend went, and not really to harp on the weekend, but as an outlook for the season in the sense of you would love to go with a perfect record during the year, but as a coach, knowing that your team can bounce back from adversity or quote-unquote low points of the year, watching your team going forward, especially with how they responded last night, how good does that make you feel about what you're going to get from them for the remainder of the schedule?
Yeah, I'm good with that. I have a ton of peace of mind about that, and they've shown it in different times. It's only just been okay, bad game or a loss, boom, great game and a win,
and they bounce right back. Exactly.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's super important. But that's who we've come to be, and every team has an identity, and that's definitely part of our identity. And the other part is taking every game, like it's a playoff game. So when you get to postseason baseball, you don't have to change anything, or the game doesn't change you. And the reality is baseball doesn't change what's required to win, right. But a lot of times people change, both emotionally and mentally, and can't let that happen. We've let it happen a little bit on the mound, and we're that. And like I said, the guys that can handle pitching under pressure and executing are the ones that are going to get the ball, whether it makes sense or not. And I'm very comfortable with that. And I think we'll have some growth, with some of those guys, but I have zero concerns. If we don't win or achieve our ultimate goal, it's not going to be because of a lack of character, toughness, or competitiveness out of the players, because they bring it every single day.
Coach, I appreciate your time. I'm going to ask you one question for you. It's not necessarily about what's happening on the field. It's a little bit about the draft. We've had a lot of conversations about the draft. We've asked you about it. Obviously, you have the 2 number 1 overall picks. If there's 2 separate years, Skeens would go 1, Cruz would go 1. I believe that both guys are going to get paid like the number 1 overall pick this year. But my question is, because Lloyd has asked me this question and asked Jared this question, I had the answer, but I don't know it. You maybe have a better answer for me. Skeens came in as a two-way guy, right? You've come out and said he could be if he wasn't a pitcher as good as he is, he could be if he didn't pitch and just hit, he'd be the starting catcher and he'd get 20 homers, and he's just that good, right? He hasn't hit because he's been so valuable on the mound. Have teams come to you and approached you about his ability to swing the bat? Because obviously you see Ohtani and you see this new push to this two-way guy. Like, have scouts or GMs or owners or anyone asked you about his ability to hit and what you thought about that, and if that's even a possibility for him moving forward in professional baseball?
Nobody has. I mean, those guys don't miss anything right now. Like, they have all the data on him from our fall baseball when he was hitting, and definitely from when he was at Air Force, and they saw him take VP for Team USA. So they don't ask as many opinions as you think. Right. You know what I mean? From people in our chairs. Like, they trust themselves, but I think it's the Pirates and then the Nationals. Like, they don't really have a hard decision, as right. far as, in my opinion, like those 2 teams are going to have an LSU player, in their system, as I see it. No question about it.
Here's a follow-up to that, right? Obviously, the Pirates are actually surprisingly winning baseball games. Like, they have built themselves up to have a lot of young offensive talent. If they still happen to be in the playoff run and they say, okay, I think we're ready to make a run in the postseason now, and they decide that they do take Skeens because he is ready now, like, I'd imagine he's in the big leagues in September. Would you agree? Pitching out the for sure.
Yeah. I think both of them could do it, and I stand by that. And I don't know, man. You guys, have gone down that professional baseball road and played in the big leagues. Like, I think they could do it. I think if the casual fan showed up at a major league game, just after the draft, and Paul and Dylan were on the field, they would not know any difference.
Right.
And those 2 would not show any difference. And so I think it's totally feasible, and it's another reason that guys should come to college instead of sign out of high school, and it's another reason they should come to LSU. I mean, we're poised to have the top hitter in the draft 2 years in a row, and then we have the top pitcher in the draft this year. And so, this is where you want to be if you want to get there.
Absolutely. I'm on the same page as you. I will promote going to college. Unless you get paid like $3-4 million out of high school, come to school, because I promise you,
if you do it right,
it's worth it.
You'll not only school, but come to LSU.
Come to LSU.
You do it right, you'll multiply what you
Thanks,
do.
Lloyd.
I got you.
Lloyd picked up what I was putting down right there.
Come to LSU.
College is great.
Yes,
it's just better in Baton Rouge.
It's way better in Baton Rouge. Coach, I appreciate your time, as always. Good luck this weekend. I will see you at the box, and then I will see you in Hoover in a couple weeks. I'll be there, too, watching a couple games. So appreciate it again. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, guys.